Oh, that's right. We are right here with Jennings McAbee. He is running for the State Senate District 10. That's right. He is, of course, from McCormick over there and was in the House and wants to go back and be in the Senate. How are you doing today, Jennings McAbee?
Well, I'm doing great, Ann, and thank you for asking me to come by today.
Absolutely. Now, you, of course, are in the primary coming up June 12th. That's right. So you are, that's why you're on here today, and if you are victorious in the primary, I guess we'll see you back sometime before the election coming up in November.
That's correct.
That's right. So how's the campaigning going out there?
Well, it's going real well. As you probably know, there are 4 counties in the Senate 10 district. That's a portion of McCormick, a portion of Abbeville, a portion of Greenwood, and a portion of Saluda counties. The lines have been redrawn where a number of people don't really know what district they're in, but you know, I know people in all of those counties, and of course, in my 23 years of service in the House, Greenwood and McCormick were in that House district exclusively. So, you know, it's been a joy to serve people and to help people out with their day-to-day issues that they call me about. And I think constituent service is a big part of being a House member or a senator. So,
now, let's see, you were in the House how long ago?
75 through 98.
Through 98. Why'd you get out?
Well, the lines were redrawn to make it extremely difficult for me to win. I tried it a couple of times and just wasn't successful with that. But you know, if you'll look at my website on JenningsMcAbee.com, I think you'll see that I did a lot of things for counties that weren't really in my House district at the time, and I'd like to continue to do that. And the numbers are more favorable now in the Senate district than they were in the House district. The House and Senate both passed reapportionment plans that really cut up some of the counties. I think it should go back to the old system where each county was guaranteed a senator and a House member, at least one. And of course the 1965 Voting Rights Act changed all that, but it's unfair, especially to the smaller counties, to not have a representative on both sides of the hall. So I'd like to be that person for all of these counties, and I'll work hard to do a good job for them.
Well, of course, one of the issues is, of course, we got more people, you know, and that's, of course, adjusted why they had to adjust the reapportionment of the districts.
Well, absolutely. They had to add about 16,000 people to the District 10 existing lines in order to draw the new lines, and that's the reason that the lines now encompass the town of Saluda and everything north of that, all the way from Lake Murray over through Abbeville County to Lake Russell and Lake Thurman.
Sure. So, gosh, that's going to make your job tougher.
Well, I don't think so.
No?
No, I enjoy getting around and talking with people and meeting with people and taking phone calls and that kind of thing. And it's just numbers. It's just a few more people. But I don't really think that'll make that much difference. Each House district is now about 30,000 people, and each Senate district is 90,000. So it's just a few more people.
90,000, just a few more people.
You know,
now you've been out knocking on all those doors, Jennings.
I tried. You know, the last time I ran for public office, I knocked on 3,500 doors, one-on-one, and it's difficult in a Senate race to do that same thing. But I've made some progress, and I've already gone through 2,500 cards, and I'm working on my second 2,500 now. But you know, I'm just urging everybody to look at JenningsMcAbee.com on the internet, and I think they'll find that I can be a good representative.
What do you think it takes to be a good representative, particularly on the Senate side now?
Well, it's a smaller body. Of course, there are 124 members of the House, but there are only 46 senators, and I think you have to have someone that's willing to work hard, take care of phone calls from constituents, be an economic development promoter to bring jobs into this area, and that's one of the things that I highlighted in my website is jobs, education, and economic development. Because if you have jobs, people pay taxes. You don't have to raise taxes in order to have more revenue to operate government. And if you have a good educated workforce, then you can recruit the economic development, and that means that people don't have to pay taxes as much on the local level because the increased tax base will take care of those issues. So I'm working those three things very hard. And while I was in the House, incidentally, I helped create more than 3,000 jobs in Greenwood and McCormick County, and I don't see any reason why we can't, go further than that. The new director of the Department of Commerce, Bobby Hitt, is a personal friend of mine and has been for 30 years, and I plan on spending a lot of time over in that department trying to secure jobs for this area, the 4 counties that are in District 10.
I think that the thing that I'm seeing that, there's lots of announcements, there are lots of new jobs coming, but they're a year, 2 years down the road. The thing I think that we need more than anything else are jobs that can be, shovel ready, ready to go type jobs, and that's what we're missing right now.
Sure, no question. And I think you have to look at existing industry as well to see if you can promote some expansions or maybe bring in some industry that supply plants like BMW and Greer and that type of thing. And I just can't see any of that being really done. Of course, there's been an announcement over in Iowa, where Michelin is going to build a 200-employee plant. But there are opportunities like that all the time. You just have to have someone both on the local level and at the state level that will go after them and try to bring them back home.
Sure. The other problem is, though, particularly, over in McCormick in your area, there is such opportunity for pulpwood and this type of thing. We have so much rural area over there, and yet we don't seem to be able to get it developed.
Well, there are all kinds of opportunities, I think, there. Plywood plants that are directly related to wood products, companies that make press wood from wood shavings and things of that nature. But, there are other opportunities. We missed out on a plant that made roofing shingles by just a narrow little bit, and that would have been a bunch of jobs, about 600 jobs at starting pay of $16 an hour. So you just have to.
Why did we miss out on it?
Well, there were a number of things. They had a change in management in New York for the company, and the company decided not to expand. But we had leases on the land. They'd already done the bores to prove that the product they were looking for was there. And it was just one of those things, but it's kind of like going fishing. You have to put a plug in the water if you're going to catch a fish.
Absolutely.
You can't catch them if you just put a rail line out there.
So what do you think about giving tax advantages and this type of thing for getting new business into an area? There was this big thing when Amazon came, and Amazon actually was going to pull out, and then they decided to go with it. What do you think about doing things like that?
Well, I think you have to look at each industry by itself. Amazon, of course, was a sales tax issue, and the issue was to exempt them from sales tax for a certain period of time until they got their feet on the ground and got that.
Wait a minute, Amazon get their feet on the ground? Hello!
In South Carolina.
That was a distribution point, yeah.
Of course, it's a multinational company, and we all understand that. But the bottom line is Lexington County is getting the jobs, and we need those type of advantages over here. The competition's fierce. I know when BMW came to South Carolina, we had an opportunity to get Mercedes-Benz also in South Carolina. And the state of Alabama offered not only a bunch of incentives, but they offered to buy Mercedes-Benz patrol cars for the state. Now,
come on now, Jennings. Is that for real?
That? Can you imagine that?
Alabama has Mercedes-Benz for patrol cars?
Some of them.
Now, isn't that a hoot?
Well, that's what the competition's like, you know. And if you're going to provide jobs for your people, you have to do things sometimes that you might not like to do, but it's a necessary part of doing business. And that's what industry recruitment is all about. It's a business. It's not a political game.
Well, what about the fact that, you know, we have the port issue, we have other issues. Of course, we've gotten Boeing here. The NLRB has been, shall we say, pushed back, but they were very aggressive against our state. What about the bigger issues that you would actually be dealing with on a state level?
Well, you know, I think, you know, in those cases, we've got to do whatever we can to promote South Carolina. And of course, the National Labor Relations Board is another governmental entity that got involved that criticized us because they thought that we had offered them, you know, a non-union situation just so they would leave Washington, the state of Washington, and come to South Carolina. And, you know, that's extremely wrong. They came to South Carolina because it was a good way to get their supplies in through the port of Charleston. It was a good work ethic for the employees that are going to be employed at that plant. And, you know, we have so much to offer in South Carolina. This is one of the best states, in my opinion, in the country to live, work, and play, and retire.
We're getting a huge amount of retirees.
A huge amount of retirees.
Absolutely.
And, you know, that's another example of some of the things that we had to do on the state level when I was in office. We had a ceiling of $300,000 on an estate. Well, you know, for a retiree to move here, if they had, say, $1 million estate and wanted to leave that to their children, they simply were getting penalized. So we were able to raise that estate tax up to the federal level, which was considerably more, in order to attract some of those people. And of course, when those people come, they bring sizable incomes that the banks can loan out to other people and create a little economic spinoff by themselves. And you don't have the environmental problems with that either.
That's true. That's true. Well, we are here with Jennings McAbee. He is running for District 10 State Senate. If you've got a question or a comment, hey, how about give us a call, 229-7984. That's 229-7984. He's going to be up here all the way till the 5 o'clock hour. But right now we're going to hear a word from our sponsors. Give us a call, 229-7984. Oh, that's right. We're right back here at Sharp Facets Gallery on the 72 bypass. Hey, if you've got a question, something burning that you'd like to know how he'd handle it as your senator for District 10, well then give us a call, 229-7984. That's 229-7984. Now, I know, Jennings, some people that remember you know that you ran as a Democrat and now you're running as a Republican. What's the deal?
Well, you left out independent.
Oh, I forgot independent. That's right.
I'm the only person in
You can't make up your mind which party you like?
No, it's absolutely not that at all. When I first was elected to office, of course, as a Democrat, the Republican Party, Republicans couldn't get elected in this state at all, but I was probably one of the more conservative, and still am, people elected to the House. As time changed and the party went further to the left, I changed and went to the independent party. I got signatures and won as an independent, and then turned around and changed to the Republican Party because it was more in line at the time, and still is, with my beliefs and what I think is good for South Carolina. You know, so it's just been an evolution that way. But, you know, I think that speaks well for me personally, and I don't like to toot my own horn, but, you know, if people have enough confidence in me to vote for me all three ways, then I must be on the right track.
Must be on the right track. Well, you know, you said that jobs, you know, are the most important thing, and then education and, of course, economic development. But some of the other issues out there, of course, are immigration, illegal immigration. There, of course, are some test cases now. We have passed a law that is very similar to Arizona's, and, of course, that'll be coming up at the Supreme Court. And also the voter ID. Two issues that are rather big. That
Sure.
Where do you stand on? Let's start with the issue of immigration.
Well, I would have supported that had I been, you know, in the Senate or in the House at the time. We've got to make everything legal If it's legal immigration, it's one thing, but if it's illegal immigration, that takes away jobs really from people in this state and in this country. So, you know, it just has to be on the up and up. Now, a lot of people from Mexico are hard workers and do a good job, and, you know, they take care of their families and pay taxes. It's the people who don't pay taxes and don't take care of their families and all of that are the people that maybe are a burden on our medical systems and things of that nature. But if they're here legally, I have no problem with it. But if it's illegal immigration, I do.
But the problem seems to be is how to get illegals out of our state, if you want to say it that way, or to have a methodology to move them. How do you see that? Because technically, immigration is a federal issue, and we haven't had much luck with the feds taking care of those that are illegal.
It seems like the feds can do anything they want to do except provide assistance to the states when it suits.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the answer to that is, but, you know, if people would just check on the status of foreigners when they come and apply for jobs.
The E-Verify.
Yeah, that would certainly be a help to that. But, you know, hopefully the feds will step in and will do something, you know, about the illegal immigrants that are here already. And most of that, I think, or from my information, is in the vegetable areas of peaches and things of that nature.
And, you know, a lot of people say we need these people to be able to pick the vegetables and the fruits and whatnot.
I've had farmers tell me that they couldn't make it without it because no one else wanted to go
and do the job.
And do the job.
Right.
And you know, it's hot sun and very difficult to do that. I saw a group from Mexico laying sod at a golf course, and, you know, they were out there at daybreak, and they didn't quit until it was dark, and they worked as hard as any group I've ever seen. So, I mean, there are pros and cons to it, and everything needs to be weighed, and you need to look at bills that are going through, because quite often there may be something in that bill that's so offensive that you would have to vote against the bill in order to, you know, to protect your folks back at home, because I've seen it happen in my 23 years in the House. And I saw a cartoon one time from the Rainbow News where the senators didn't realize something was in there, and they were holding their arms up while I was looking at my watch. You know, I wanted to go to the bathroom. I wanted to get the speaker's attention and all of these kinds of things.
Kind of like Nancy Pelosi and, you know, let's pass this bill and then we'll read it to find out what's in it.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the health care.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, there was a story of the state senator that got up and he was making all kinds of comments about a bill. And finally someone behind him pulled on his pants and said, "Senator, you're the sponsor of that bill." He said, "Now that I've told you all the bad things about it, let me tell you the good things." So, I mean, it's not a perfect system, but this country is a good country. And government is, for the most part, good. And sure, there are always issues that are offensive to people that come up. But for the most part, I think elected officials, for the most part, are genuine, and they care about people, and they care about doing things for their local community. And I'm that way, and if I ever stop being that way, I won't run for public office.
Well, there you go. We are talking with Jennings McAbee right here on WCRS 1450 AM right here in Greenwood. Hey, don't forget, you can also hear us on the internet at Ann's Entertainment, ANNES, entertainmentvision.com. Click on the button. We'll come in loud and clear. Right now it's time for South Carolina news and a word from our sponsors. Don't you go away. 229-7984. Give us a call. 229-7984.
Are you a pirate or a pack rat? Do you have a vacation of a lifetime sitting in the attic? Or a college tuition hung on a wall? Or is a fabulous retirement hidden in your jewelry box? Bring those items to Sharp Facets Gallery. We can establish value and buy from you or sell for you. And so ends another chapter at Sharp Facets Gallery, 72 Bypass, and on the web, sharpfacets.com.
Oh, that's right. We're right here with Jennings McAbee. We're talking about his run for the state senate. That's District 10, right here in South Carolina. In fact, that'll be coming up, I believe, June 12th will be the primary. And then, of course, the real general election comes up November 6th. So we are going to be filled up with people talking politics right here on the Diner Show. And, of course, Jennings, you have been in politics. You want to go back into it. We had a couple of calls come in. One of them, gal Jolene, says, what has happened to the Humphrey Democrats, those fiscal conservatives but somewhat liberal?
Well, I think the evolution of the parties, you've gotten more people to both extremes in there. And, of course, I was a Democrat back in the 70s because that was the only way you could get elected in South Carolina at the time. To give you an idea of what it was like, the first primary, Republican primary that was held, McCormick County had to bring people in to run the polls because nobody wanted to be seen
At a Republican
polling place. But the change has been, I think, good for the state in the two-party system because now except for some gridlock, of course, that happens occasionally. But I think the change has been good because you get more of a balance there. I'm more of a moderate than I am anything else. I try to vote for what's in the best interest of people, regardless of what it is.
They don't seem to do that in Washington, D.C., though.
No, they don't, and that's what I think we need more of. Some politicians seem to forget people when they get in office. These offices don't belong to the politicians. They don't belong to the government agencies. They belong to the people back at home, and that's what I think you need to do is represent the people back at home. Now, there are issues, of course, that can swing back and forth on both sides of that pendulum, and you just have to do the best job you can and hope that you'll get some input from folks back at home as to how they feel about issues.
One of the things I think motivates a lot of politicians is the fact that they are politicians, and particularly in the House, that election comes around every 2 years. And, of course, this year everybody's up because of reapportionment and redistricting.
That's correct. I mean, you look at the lines and they have changed so much. Of course, the population of the state grew by a considerable amount of people, so you had to add numbers of people to all of the House seats and all of the Senate seats in order to comply with the Voting Rights Act. How they drew the lines, however, is another issue. There seemed to be a lot of incumbent protection in the way those lines were drawn that would favor the incumbents and not necessarily any challengers that came up.
I wonder why that was.
Well, I think the answer to that is evident, but unfortunately people got lost in that process, and it's unfair to counties to have lines where you have neighbors on one side of the street voting in one district and neighbors on the other side of the street voting in another. And to split these counties, what that does, it dilutes the voting strength of not only Abbeville and Saluda and McCormick County, but Greenwood County as well, because now Greenwood has 2 senators, and Saluda County has 3 senators, and they are only a county of 17,000 people, and that you just should not do that because people deserve better.
Do you think they should be redrawn then?
Yeah.
Is that something that you would look at?
Well, I'd love to look at it, but unfortunately, once they've been approved by the Justice Department, you're stuck with them for 10 years. And they can't
till the next census comes
around.
Yeah.
So, but certainly, if I had a hand in drawing those lines, I would try to protect the counties. But like I said earlier in the broadcast, I think every county should be guaranteed 1 senator and 1 House member. To give you an example, North Dakota only has about 600,000 people, and they get 2 U.S. senators. Atlanta is millions of people, and they only get 2. Now, how is it right for the U.S. Congress to have that kind of scenario and for the federal government to force a state to do away with the Constitution, which provided at that time one senator and one House member for each county. And of course, if the population is more, you get more House members because they're based on population.
Absolutely. But now, one of the things we didn't get to before we went to the break was we were talking about voter ID, and of course this is going up in front of the Supreme Court. What do you feel about the voter ID? Where do you stand on that?
Well, I'm for that. I don't have any problem with people.
We need to have an ID to be able to vote,
Exactly.
just to be clear.
Exactly. And, you know, you have to have IDs to do almost anything else, to participate in governmental programs and all that.
Sometimes just to remember who you are.
Exactly. And, of course, the banks, even when you do banking, won't.
Well, what about the argument of the elder people that have never had licenses or IDs or something? Where do you think about that one?
Well, I think the governor came up with a good program to give free IDs. And sure, it might be a little inconvenient, but it's far better to have an open and honest election process and cause a little inconvenience for the first time, because that'll only happen this one time, in my opinion, than to have an election that may be laced with fraud. I saw the numbers of 900 and something people that were deceased that actually voted. Now, to me, if that's accurate, and I don't know whether it is or not, but how the department said it was, if that's accurate, that means that somebody took a registration card without a picture ID in and voted those people that were deceased. And that's terribly wrong. I mean, it could affect the outcome of elections all over the state. And I've been in scenarios like that in the past, where one vote per precinct could mean the difference in whether a person was elected office or not.
Absolutely. So you are for this. So you believe that the law should stand as it is written here in South Carolina?
I don't know all the details of the law, but from what I've seen in the news media, and that, you know, sometimes may not be as accurate as it should be, but we need some type of process that's open and clear and honest and dependable. And I don't think we have that right now.
Okay. Well, that one will be coming up. We'll see how that goes. Just for you know, another issue of conversation, just because we're here today. What about health care? What do you think about that? Of course, that's in front of the Supreme Court right now, and it's a question whether the mandate will stand, whether it won't. What do you think about health care?
Well, I'm concerned about the new changes in there and the impact it will have on state government. I mean, the numbers are just astronomical of the cost it could be to state government, because, as you know, state government participates in the Medicaid program. Mm-hmm. To me, it has the possibility of driving up the cost in order to take care of those who maybe don't have the insurance. But to force people to buy insurance when they don't want to, in my opinion, is a terrible thing for government to do that. The intrusion of government, you know, into our lives, telling you, the next thing you know, they'll be telling you, like China, how many children you can have and all of these things. And, you know, it just shouldn't be that way.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that, but I just wondered where you stood on it. What do you think? Okay, this is just for the heck of it, just because we're sitting here.
Sure.
Do you think it'll get struck down, or do you think it'll stand?
Well, it's interesting. You know, I think it could be a real tight vote both ways. The thing that concerns me most about the U.S. Supreme Court is, you know, they can make law or they can change law or the intent of the law by their rulings. And I'm not sure that's a good thing for this country. And, of course, the person that's in office in the presidency gets to impact by his appointments to the Supreme Court.
That's why every president looks forward to see how they can affect the Supreme Court.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure.
And I'm not sure that's a good thing. And I don't know if our founding fathers thought that would ever be a problem, but, you know, we have a Constitution to live by. And
do we?
Well, we have one, and you know, I for one believe in keeping the Constitution or not.
Oh, don't you believe it's an outdated document that should be changed?
I agree that it's a living document, but I don't think it should be changed at all.
Okay.
Because
should it change?
Well,
a living document would change.
Well, a living document would, but you know, I think it's stable enough in its present form that it should not change. I don't think they should read other things into it the way the Supreme Court has done. I think it's unfair to the country. After all, we have lasted longer than any other country in the world with the document that our forefathers gave to us, and we need to stick by it.
I think you're right. I think it's amazing that somebody could have done a document 200 years plus ago, and it could still be as relevant today. What foresight?
Well, you know, if it's not broke, we don't need to fix it.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
You're sure. All right. I'm here with Jennings McAbee. We're talking politics. He wants to be your senator from this District 10. So don't you go away. If you got a question, don't hesitate to give us a call. 229-7984. That's 229-7984. Call us now. He's going to be here till 5 o'clock. Don't you go away. We'll be right back. Oh, that's right. We're right back here at Sharp Facets Gallery. Give us a call, 229-7984. That's 229-7984. We have Jennings McAbee with us here today. We've talked about a lot of different issues. I certainly hope you've gotten to know Jennings McAbee better, so when you're ready to make that vote coming up with the primary on June 12th, that you'll have more information. We're going to be doing all interviews. Oh my God, I'm interviewing a lot of people between now and June 12th, and I hope this will give you more information about our candidates. You know, Jennings, they have said that this election coming up, of course they're talking about the presidential, but that this election coming up is one of the most important ever. What do you think as you look across the whole spectrum, not only your race, but the whole spectrum here?
Well, I don't think there's any question about it. And it's a matter of the direction of the country or the direction of the state of South Carolina that makes a difference. And I would hope people would turn out and vote, because I don't know of anyone that's completely satisfied with their local, state, or federal government at this point and stage in the game. And I think it needs someone with historical knowledge of the process to be elected in all of those areas, someone that people feel comfortable with, people know that they're responsible. And
do you think then they need to have a background in state government? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm not saying that they need to have a background in state government, but it certainly helps if they have some experience in state government to know what makes it all work. I've seen in the news media some of the programs that they cut just willy-nilly in Columbia in order to wave the flag and say, you know, I've done a good job, pat me on the head. And at the same time, in health care, these people are going to the emergency room and it's costing 10 times as much as it would have cost for an office visit. Or if they cut back on prescription drugs, you know, the state contribution to that, then people that are getting 5 drugs now that are poor might not get the 2. Well, when they don't get the medications that they need, they wind up in the emergency room also. So, you know, you got to have people that understand that whole process in order to make good judgments.
Sure. So one of the other issues out there, of course, is the Budget and Control Board. This is something that's been going on down there in the Senate and the House for a good while. They actually ended up the session last year not with a decision. In fact, Governor Nikki Haley called them back to work on that. Then they've come in, and so far I'm not sure that we actually have an answer. They voted several ways on this, but the idea of having the Department of Administration versus the Budget and Control Board. And then, of course, there's some out there that say that some aspects of the Budget and Control Board are good, and the Department of Administration should be part under the governor's office. What say you here, Jennings McAbee?
I tend to fall in that latter category, and of course, you have to look at the history again. Back in the 30s and 40s and 50s, when the Budget Control Board was first established under Governor Thurman at that time, there was a need because the governor didn't have much power then, little if any, except in the way of appointments. And the legislature had all the power, so there had to be a board established in order to run state government the other 6 months of the year, because the legislature only was there for 6 months. But I think it's time that served its purpose, and some parts of that should be turned over to a Department of Administration that's controlled by the governor. Now, you have to be careful how that's done because you don't want to invest too much control to one person. That's why we have representative government, and that's why we have House members and senators to get input from the people. And, you know, one person might not represent the needs of all the people. And it needs to be a check and balance in there, but I think that can be achieved.
I thought we had checks and balances in our federal government. Look what the GSA's been doing.
I've never known of checks and balances in our federal government. I think it's run amok, and it's still doing that.
To me, it is absolutely frightening. I mean, this is off the subject of your local election, but it is absolutely frightening to see how something like this could happen.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you
And
more.
the more we keep peeling it back, the more things keep coming out.
And that's exactly why people need to get out and vote, not only in the primary, but in the general election, to stop this runaway train. I mean, I think we're headed for disaster if we don't do something to rein in government.
I'm about ready to start a program. Until you can prove to me that you need my money, I'm not sending you anymore.
Well,
that might cause me a problem, I understand, but...
I might come see you in the federal penitentiary.
Oh, that's right, probably.
I don't believe that'll work.
I don't believe it'll work either, but, I mean, they just have been so irresponsible, and we can't get that money back.
Sure.
That's true.
Sure.
But that's I digress. Now, you of course want the balanced budget. Here in South Carolina, we do have a balanced budget, but there are some problems because things pop up every once in a while, and it's not quite balanced.
No, it's not. I can remember a time when I was in the House of Representatives, and all of a sudden DSS, or Department of Social Services, had a $15 million deficit. You had county boards, you had state boards, and it got to the point that the biggest thing that the state board issue they had was where they were going to stay when they came to Columbia to have a so-called, quote, board meeting. $15 million deficit. And I was able to get a bill through, bipartisan bill, 103 co-sponsors of the 124 members of the House, Democrats and Republicans, to reorganize the department and, in effect, change the way they did business to avoid that $15 million deficit, which at that time protected South Carolina's AAA credit rating. Now I understand that Health and Human Services has overspent by $250 million. And this has happened in the last 12 years. And you know, I see our state government going down the same path as the federal government. And, you know, the state government, it doesn't have a printing press. You know?
Yeah, that's the other thing they've got is that printing press, isn't it?
And that's frightening because when they crank that press up, then that makes the cost of a loaf of bread or a gallon of milk just go up that much more, and everybody pays the price for it in one way or another.
Well, Jennings, you know, you are running for a District 10 Senate seat, and of course we are almost out of time. What would you like the people to know about you that we haven't maybe discussed here today?
Well, I'd just like everyone to know that I'm a strong person of faith and family values, and I would urge everyone to go and look at my website. It has all of the organizations that I'm a member of and some of the things that I've done for these communities in the past. But again, I want to stress we've got to create jobs. We've got to do our best to improve our educational system and pay our teachers what they're worth. Some of them, I think, ought to get combat pay. And we also have to create economic development to keep our economic stability that we have now. Otherwise, we're going to go downhill, and I plan to do all of those things. And I promise I won't forget the people once I get there.
Well, I think that, you know, you brought up education. We've got a couple minutes. We haven't really hit on that one. Education. How do we get a really educated workforce? I mean, South Carolina ranks so low on some of the basics. How do we get that educated workforce?
Well, I think the answer to that is in the primary levels and having smaller class sizes, because if you lose a child in the first 4 years, then by middle school, he's so far behind that he gets frustrated and he wants to drop out. Our technical education system has done an excellent job, and I'm proud of Piedmont Tech for what they've done. But, you know, you have to look at all aspects of it. And I think, you know, instead of cutting education the way I've seen it happen for the last 2 or 3 years and letting people go home, we need to keep the funding level to continue the growth in that area. I mean, the facts and figures bother me when I see them. I've heard the expression "Thank God for Mississippi." I don't want to be in competition with Mississippi. I want to be in competition with at least a higher level of the states in this country.
You know, I think that one of the things that has bothered a lot of people, and we are running out of time, but I'm going to run it over here to let you answer. This is WCRS right here in Greenwood. We are talking to Jennings McAbee. He is running for South Carolina Senate in District 10. But one of the things that have been some of the issues is, should teachers just be just stay on, or should they have to work to a level? Zayas, the superintendent of schools, says he wants to change things so you're not grandfathered in. That's not the right term, but you're not just automatically in for raises and this type of thing. You have to prove that you are worthy of teaching and keep the levels up. That is one of the issues with teachers. What do you think about as far as education, as far as the pay scale of teachers? But also on the flip side, we seem to spend a lot of money on the facilities, but do we have inside that house the quality that makes it work?
Well, you know, I couldn't agree with you more. The facilities don't make the good education system. Sure, it's nice to have new buildings and shiny new equipment and computers and all that, but I think we've got to put in some kind of reward system that rewards truly good teachers. And I think we need to cut out some of the paperwork that they're doing now. Teachers don't need to be teaching to the test. They need to be motivating the children to do their very best. And if they do that, and we've got a lot of good teachers out there that I'm sure, you know, can follow those things. But quite frankly, a lot of them are so frustrated that they're beginning to throw their hands up and say, well, I think I'll just take my retirement and move on, and that's not the way it should be. So we've got to make some adjustments. I don't know the whole answers to it, but I do know that we've got to have smaller class sizes, and we've got to have adequate help in those classes.
Well, with all the budget cuts, that's one of the reasons, isn't the class sizes are going up?
Sure,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Should the federal government be involved in education in the state of South Carolina?
I don't believe so. The state constitution says that the state will provide a free education, and every time you get federal money, or the times that I've seen it, now if it's for specific programs, it might be a little bit different, but if you get federal lump sum money, then they want to take control of the local system, and that's what the Board of Trustees locally is supposed to do.
Absolutely. Well, I certainly hope you've enjoyed talking with us today. It certainly has been a pleasure to have you here. Jennings McAbee, you are running for what office now?
It's Senate District 10, which is Saluda, Greenwood, Abbeville, and a portion of McCormick County. And I thank all of you for listening, and hope that you'll turn out on July the 12th. You still have until
June the 12th.
June the 12th. I'm sorry. You still have until the 12th of this month to sign up if you haven't registered to vote.
Absolutely. Well, let's see. What do we got? We got one question in here. Ah, the heck with Fox News. What do we got here? Jackie Lynch, a retired teacher. It always galled her that mediocre got paid the same as good and great.
Sure. Well, that's what I was talking about with the step increases. You know, it guarantees an increase, and that necessarily, is not the right thing to do. But I think that could be adjusted with the bonuses that I talked about, and I understand their frustration, and obviously Ms. Lynch is frustrated because of that very factor, and that you need to make changes sometimes in order to improve things.
Absolutely. Well, it certainly has been good having you here. Now, your website one more time for those that want to check it out.
It's JenningsMcAbee.com.
And if somebody wanted to call and talk to you about some of the issues that we've discussed here today,
378-6864, and you'll find that also on the website.
On the website, sure, that's good. Thanks so much for coming by, Jennings.
Thank you.
All right, this is WCRS right here in Greenwood. We are going to finish up with the news, and Happy Hour with Ann is not here today, but I should be back tomorrow. I've got to get a few things fixed up on the radio. We'll be back up tomorrow, though, on Happy Hour with Ann, 5 to 6. Enjoy Timeless Cool. I'll be back in the morning with the I Love Ann show. Bye-bye, everybody.